I went hammock camping at Lake Maria State Park at the end of June this year, but before I got there, while I was driving on the country roads leading to the park, these two large birds crossed in front of me on the road. So I stopped and pulled over and took their picture. I didn't know what they were at first, but then I found out later that they're Sandhill Cranes. These birds can get to be as tall as 5 feet, and they used to be common in Minnesota, but then they weren't, and now they're making a resurgence again, apparently. It was really cool to see them, and as it turns out, I'd see them again, but more on that later. I had a lot of nature encounters at Lake Maria this time. The park is famous for having the Blandings Turtle, a threatened turtle, a rare turtle. The sign is at the side of the road, on the road that brings you into the park, and there's this nice pond. And if you look over to the right, what's that on that log? Well, I managed to take a picture of this fella sunning himself. This is the first time I've seen one of the 4 times I've been at the park. Well, after photographing the turtle, it was time to hike to my backpack site. I've been to backpack site number 1 a couple of times. This time I was going to number 4. I've never been there. It's about a mile or so from the parking lot. Once again, it's nice to walk through the big woods of Minnesota. You'll pass some scenic things like small ponds and lakes. You might see some beaver lodges. It was a really hot weekend when I was there. In fact, there was a heat advisory, but walking through the forest just made it a lot more tolerable and cool. Here's the signpost for the trail that goes off to backpack number 4. What I like about this is that half of that mile walk was all on this sort of private trail to backpack site 4. It was nice and secluded. It was a pleasant walk through the woods. The site has its own private latrine, which is kind of set back off the trail, and it's about 100 yards or more away from the campsite. You cross this wooden bridge, and in the distance you can see the campsite with the picnic table. Here's a view of it. It's a pretty spacious site. You get a couple of tents in there easily. And look at those conveniently placed trees for hammock camping. Behind those trees you get a view of a small lake. It's open water here, and then on the other side it's pretty covered up with reeds. Another view of the campsite from a different angle. Again, it's pretty large and mostly open. Hey, here's the amenities all lined up. You got your food locker, you got a picnic table, and a nice fire ring. Mosquitoes and biting flies at Lake Maria can be terrible sometimes, so I always bring my bug net for my hammock. But this time, there was a nice breeze that kicked up in the afternoon and seemed to chase the mosquitoes away, for the most part. Repellent's still a good idea. Listen to those birds. I heard them all day and most of the evening. Well, here's the whole hammock setup, including the rain fly. I heard that it might rain the next morning, so I made sure to bring that. Well, after everything was all set up, I had a light dinner and then decided to take a casual walk on the Big Woods Loop Trail, which goes past Backpack 4 and farther into the woods. It's a pretty hike. Along the way, I found this deer stand. Lake Maria, like a lot of state parks, has a special hunting season for deer to control the population in the fall. Ironically, when I turned this corner, there was a deer at the end of that trail there. I tried to take his picture because he was too fast for me and he bolted. Didn't see him again. More walking through the woods, and then it breaks to this pond where you can see this beaver lodge. I've heard beaver at night at Lake Maria, but I've never actually seen one. When I got back from that hike, I heard that Sandhill Cranes sound. It was in the air, it was coming from a distance, and then approached me, and they flew right over my head. I didn't get a picture of this, but they landed behind those reeds in the background, which was really frustrating because I couldn't see them. I stood there for a long, long time, and I finally got a shot of their heads poking up above the reeds. But that was about it. They seemed to like that side of the lake. I wish they liked the open side. More nature encounters at Lake Maria. The frogs and birds at the lake kept this sound up all afternoon and evening, and a good part of the night. Again, I was very happy to be under the trees during this very hot day with strong sunshine and high temperatures and high humidity. It was much cooler, much more comfortable, and as the sun set and it got dark in my campsite and the sky turned colors, it just set up the time to have that campfire. It was a nice way to end my one-night stay at Lake Maria Backpack Site 4. I recommend it. Thanks for watching.